We're in a series called The Secret Sauce, and we're talking about conflict is actually something that possesses tremendous power in your life. It's ironic to think about the fact that the same thing that can ruin your relationship could save your relationship. Conflict. All of us in this room could either tell a personal story or one very close to us of a relationship or two that was fractured. Irreparable damage was done based on a mishandling of conflict. The mishandling of conflict comes in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes it comes in lashing out. Sometimes it comes in avoiding dealing with the issue for so long it festers and metastasizes and it grows and eventually causes death because we didn't get in there and cut it out early on. We coped with it, we dealt with it, or lived with it. We didn't deal with it. And so when it comes to conflict, we have to be serious about this, but we also have to understand how to do it. Because if we do it in the wrong way, we cause damage. And I'll just tell you, if I could give a gift, if I could press a button and do a magic trick, and I could give everyone in the world a gift, imagine our communities if we all were better at conflict. Imagine the culture. Imagine a country where people were good at conflict. Imagine families where people were good at conflict. I mean, dude, this is a game changer. It's a secret sauce. It's how businesses and organizations get better, solve problems, and bond. So this is a big deal. How do we do it well? I want to start with the concept of tension. Tension. Some of you hate tension. You hate tension so bad. If there's tension, you feel like you need to resolve it right now. Or you avoid tension. But what I'm going to tell you is tension is good. Tension keeps bridges suspended. Tension is a good thing. And some things, like when you feel tension, you have to ask yourself this question: is this tension a problem to be solved or a tension to be managed? If you have an interpersonal conflict, you need to start with that. You need to frame it up. This is either a problem we need to solve or a tension to be managed. Let me give you an example. Say you're in a marriage and you're having tension around money. We have money tension. One of the people in the marriage likes to spend money. They walk impulsively. I want to buy this. I want to buy that. Buy this. Buy. Likes to buy things and likes to kind of quickly spend money because their philosophy is, what do we want to die with a bunch of money in the bank? Come on, let's live life. Let's buy some stuff. Let's splurge on some stuff. Let's go some places. Let's just freewheel. Let's do some stuff. Let's use money's just a tool. It's a resource. Let's use it. Let's spend it. The other person's like, dude, you're going to spend us into the poorhouse. You're going to spend us onto the street. You're going to spend all of our money. We're going to be irresponsible that we have nothing left because you spend so quickly. All right, is that a problem to be solved or a tension to be managed? It's a tension to be managed. Because some people are such tightwads, the first dollar they ever met is safely under their mattress. Okay, dude, come on, let go. Like loosen the purse strings of hair. Go ahead and live life. But yet this other person could lead us into responsibility that would put our whole family in danger. It's a tension to be managed. If we approach it as a problem to be solved, winners and losers, we miss the opportunity to sit in the tension and to ask the right questions. Okay, this is, again, it might be, how do we raise our children? One person is prone to being very strict, and the other person is a little more lax. Sometimes it's good to be patient. Sometimes it's good to step back and let things play out. And other times you got to be assertive and you got to get in proactive. It's a tension to be managed. In your business, in your organization, it's a tension to be managed. Do we need to come up with new packaging for the product, or do we need to improve the product? Some would say, no, we don't need to do the package. The product, the product needs worked on. There's a reason people aren't buying it a second time, because it doesn't taste good. We got to make it taste good. And so it's like, no, it tastes amazing. It's perfect. We just got to repackage it. Nobody's buying it. They don't get it's tension. You got to sit in the tension, and you got to understand it's a good thing. People who don't embrace tension end up doing things like this. Over the years, they go, why are we still doing that? Well, because we've always done it. We've always done it that way. Well, why? Because nobody wanted to wade into the tension to ask the question, should we still be doing this? Because that's a fight. That's a battle. And the reality is, sometimes people do things that are out of season. It was right to do it in that season. In this season, it's not right to do it, but we're still doing it. Why? Because we didn't want to have the fight as to whether we should do it or not. Tension. You got to wade into the tension. All of us in this room right now have a specific tension as human beings in kind of man versus self and in life. We all have the tension between two core desires. The first one is I want to be loved exactly as I am, okay? I want to be loved for better, for worse, richer, poor. I want to be loved whether I preach a good sermon or not. I want to be loved whether I lead well or not. I want to be loved whether I'm useful or not. I want to be loved even if I pop my Achilles tendon and I'm 2 weeks, no weight bearing, high maintenance, high maintenance. I want to be loved in my high maintenance. I want to be loved on the rung of the ladder that I am at right now, even if I never level up. Even if I want to be loved unconditionally where I am. We have that core desire. Now, you know this. Not everybody's going to love you like that. Don't expect your boss to love you like that. Your boss got somebody breathing down her neck. Got somebody breathing down his neck. You got to create results. But you want somebody to love you in this way. The second core desire, in some ways, is in tension with that core desire, which is, I don't want to stay on the rung I'm at. I want to go up. I want to get better. I want to improve. You're supposed to be getting smarter over time. You're supposed to be getting more mature over time. You're supposed to be getting more skilled over time. Paul says it like this: though our outward bodies are withering or failing, he said our spirits are being renewed every day. My body's on a bell curve, but my spirit and my attitude and my heart is all going, it's going up and to the right if I do it correctly. So we have the tension between being loved as I am, even if I don't get better, but yet I want to get better. This is why relationships get complicated. This is why it can be very hard to coach your kid. I was talking to a guy the other day. His wife was a professional soccer player, and his young daughter is a little soccer prodigy. And his wife coaches, and he says, "Is she gonna play for your wife?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because she just wants her to be her mom." Now, sometimes it works. Sometimes it works, people are able to work it, but sometimes it doesn't, because you go, the person that I want to just love me on this rung is coaching me pretty hard right now. And I don't know that I want my mom taking me to the next level in soccer. I know I'm making some of you nervous right now. You're like, is he gonna blow another Achilles? Not on a Sunday. But you get the tension. We gotta sit in that tension. Here's a tension related to those two concepts. Have you ever had the tension, like you were uncomfortable in life and you're not sure because it feels so unnatural what you're walking through? You go, am I masquerading or maturing? Have you ever been there? Yeah. It feels unnatural. You're not able to do what you want to do. You're not able to say what you want to say. In some way, you feel constrained and restrained, but you're going, is this me putting a mask on and faking it and pretending, or is this a process of maturity? Sometimes that's hard to know. You ever been in a room, you had something you wanted to say, and you had to bite your tongue, and you weren't quite sure, am I in here faking it? Posing, pretending to be something? Or is this being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry? Because sometimes maturity lets you know that discretion is the better part of valor. Sometimes you got to shut up. It takes maturity to shut up sometimes. That's not you masquerading, that's you growing. But it could be masquerading. I don't know. Maybe I'm faking it. Maybe I'm pretending to be something I'm not. What's the answer? I don't know. Tension, bro. Sit in it. Wrestle with it. Tension is good. It's conflict. Secret sauce. Come on, you showed up today. We might as well have a little church. I'm going to take you to this tension, and we're going to see like what to do about this, powerfully displayed in Luke 19. As you turn to Luke 19, I'm going to read you a quote here. This is, you probably maybe heard this before. It's the Prayer of Serenity. Prayer of Serenity by Reinhold Niebuhr says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. God, grant me the serenity to accept myself on the rung that I am, the thing I can't change, but also to have the courage to change the thing I can, to love myself enough to go, in my deficiency, I will have the serenity to accept it, but the thing that I don't have to accept, give me the courage to change. And then he says, the wisdom to know the difference between the two. That wisdom, coming to that wisdom, there's tension. It just takes tension. All right. Luke 19, 1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. Quick pause. Context. If you read down all the way down Luke 19, you're going to see what happens right after this is the triumphal entry. Jesus is going to you know, ride a donkey through Jerusalem, and they're going to be throwing palm branches and robes, and he's coming in to be crucified. So this is inside of a week before Jesus goes to the cross. The reason I bring that up is because timing is important. I mean, the fact that Jesus was willing to have this encounter at this time, like there was no room for, you know, going off script. To go off script, there was a priority. So just understand this is right in the heat of Jesus' life. Verse 2 said there was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector. Don't miss that. He was a chief. He was a chief tax collector, not just a tax collector. He was chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and he called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, come down, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house with great excitement and joy. Verse 7, but the people were displeased. He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half of my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. And Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, the picture of Luke 19, verses 2 and 3, painted by Luke, is worth about 1,000,000. Imagine for a moment that you take out your cell phone, you're at a parade. Jesus, at this point, has attracted so much attention. The crowds are massive. He's coming down the road, and here's this guy, Zacchaeus, wealthy, powerful. And you see the dichotomy between somebody who is extremely wealthy. He's wearing garbs and clothes and things that nobody can afford except him. And yet, he is physically too short to see over the heads of the people in front of him. And you pull out your phone and you snap that pic and you see this dichotomy. This guy who in many ways is the most powerful guy there, and yet has a limitation he can do nothing about. No matter how many powerful friends you have, if you're 5'1", you can't make yourself 5'2". That's right. There's some things you just can't do anything about. That's right. Can't fix it. Looked it up. The average height of a man in that day was about 5'5". So they don't give us the exact stature of Zacchaeus, but it was enough that it was noteworthy that he looked and said, this guy couldn't see over the head of the 5'5" people. So I'm not going to put a number on it, but let's just say, in a sense, it was an issue that he had that really was literal, but it serves as a powerful metaphor for when you have a stature issue in your life, you have something that you're not able to rise above. Doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter how accomplished, what degree you have, how many powerful friends you have. At a certain place, you accumulate all of this, but you still have an issue of stature. Now, when life is done at its best and its healthiest, you learn early on that your height doesn't really matter, dude. It doesn't really matter. It's not that big a deal. It's just your height. What matters is your character, content of your character, who you are as a person, what you're doing with what you've got. But if you grow up in an environment where your areas of deficiency that you can't change or do anything about, that you're taking shots from your family, from your friends, from the people around you, from your classmates, from your rabbi, from your pastor, from your teacher, from your aunts and your uncles. Everybody's got short jokes. At some point, I'm sick of the short jokes. On the outside, they like making the short. It's funny, because they just think it's no big deal. But when you're the one who's vertically challenged, eventually it's not funny anymore. Okay, I've heard the dumb joke, man. Don't tell me that. It's stupid. It's not funny anymore. I'm sick of it. When you're little, you got to take it as a kid. You got to take it from your coach. You got to take it from the teacher. You got to take it from the bully. And the way it should work in a healthy environment is it doesn't matter how tall you are. We love you on this rung. We love you right here. See who you really are. We love you right there. And then from that unconditional love, you now have the opportunity to define success. But what happens is when you have your deficiency, forget height, we'll just call stature as a metaphor for this thing where I don't measure up. And I'm sick of the jokes. At a certain place, I'm gonna put on my bulletproof vest because I'm tired of taking shots. Zacchaeus, at some point in his life, decided to armor up. He decided, there's nothing I can do about my height, but I'm gonna use everything I have, and you will respect me. You will respect me. Now, he was universally despised. Why? Well, because a tax collector in that day was somebody who was hired by the Roman government. The Roman government had taken the nation of Israel into captivity, so they were oppressing the Jewish people. And what they did was, not only did Rome want to be able to manage Israel, but they wanted to be able to proliferate their empire to the ends of the earth. So how did they do it? They overtaxed the people who they were oppressing to get more money to be able to take more land. So how did they do that? Well, they went to Israelites and they would hire Jewish men to tax the people, and they could tax you on anything. Walk up to you, you got your iPhone, whatever number, what is it now? iPhone 52? You got your iPhone 52, and they go, that's an iPhone 52, you owe me some taxes. Give some to Rome, put some in their pocket. So they were driving a car you couldn't afford. They were pulling into a gated community. They were wearing clothes you couldn't afford. They had built on something. You had to be a certain kind of ruthless to get there. You had to be a little cold-blooded. You had to be willing to be despised. You know, we read our Bible and we read it like it's a two-dimensional story, you know? Like it's 101 Dalmatians or something. And you got Cruella de Vil and she's evil. And then you got the nice people trying to save the Dalmatians and they're good. And we always put people in these categories as like the tax collector. They're so bad. They're villains. It's like, nah, bro, it's more complex than that. Life's more complex than that. How do you get that ruthless? How do you get that ruthless? Well, you get that ruthless because you're sick of the short jokes. I'm sick of the short jokes. I'm tired of it. How could you exploit your own community? How could you exploit your own countrymen? You're a Jew. How could you do this to the Jews? Because the Jews are the one making the short jokes. I'm alone. It's me against the world, dude. I'm putting this bulletproof vest on because nobody loves me on my rung. Everybody who sees my height, that's what they see. And they've got a joke or they've got disrespect. And they think it's a big joke, but I'm not a joke, dude. You will respect me. You can despise me. I'm cool with it. You will respect me. Nobody's going to mess with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus had the whole teeth of the Roman government behind him. You don't want that smoke. That's right. That's right. You can despise me. You can, hey, now the short jokes are going to cost you. They're going to cost you. Literally, get your wallet out. He had leveled up to a position leveraging all of his talent. Now, this other thing you gotta understand. To be a chief tax collector, they don't just give that job to anybody. That's right. You have to have the savvy to navigate the Roman hierarchy, to maneuver your way through to get to a position that powerful. This was a bad dude. He said, when you see me, all you see is my height, but I'm gonna tell you there's more going on beneath the surface, and I'm gonna use this to put me in a position to be over top. Despise me if you want. You will respect me. So now, Zacchaeus, as the chief tax collector, has spent his life wearing a bulletproof vest, spent a life trying to conceal his issue of stature by elevating himself with all of his talent. If you ever looked at somebody and you're like, I'm not sure if they're arrogant or insecure. I mean, they act cocky, but deep down, I think they're a little shaky. I can't figure out if they're overconfident or self-conscious. Have you ever felt that internal conflict with yourself? You walk into one environment, and in another environment, you are so self-conscious. I feel really almost like I can puff my chest out over here, but over here, I feel like the smallest person in the room. Have you ever felt that tension? So which are they? Are they arrogant or are they insecure? Both. The dichotomy between a man who could wear clothes no one else could afford, who was the most powerful guy at the parade, who had the most powerful friends you could imagine, but was too short to see over the heads of the people in front of them, is worth 1,000,000 words. And that's where he found himself. It's where I find myself. It's where I think most honest people would look and go, I am teetering. Some days I'm arrogant. Some days I'm insecure. And Jesus wants to deal with both. So he comes to this intersection in Luke chapter 19 and verse 3. As he's standing there, he has to decide. I've spent my whole life in this bulletproof vest. From the moment I decided the short jokes are gonna cost you, from the moment I made that decision, I've been in the process of powering up. And yet I'm here and I'm empty because I'm alone, because I thought if I could become the chief, I would be able to climb high enough that all of the insecure feelings and everything would all be dealt with, would go away because I had climbed high enough. And yet now he's the chief and he goes, something's still not right. I still feel so insecure. They think I'm arrogant, but I'm actually insecure. So he's at this moment and he has to make a decision. What am I gonna do? Am I going to hang on to the bulletproof vest? Am I gonna let people see me trying to do this? Or am I just gonna go home and go back to the way I was living? And Zacchaeus has this pivotal, defining moment in verse 4. Look what it says, verse 4. Don't miss the power of this. It says, so he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. Don't miss this. At some point, he decides he thinks Jesus can do something internally, can help him in this tension. So he makes a choice to run ahead and climb a tree. That takes some serious humility to run ahead. I'm willing to pit stain the expensive garbs and to climb a tree. That's meme-worthy stuff. The short guy's climbing the tree. Okay? People get their phones out like, when you wish you could see the parade, but you're too short, ha, ha, ha. Everybody's got a comment. Everybody's got something to say. I'm putting myself right back in a position for more short jokes. Come on. Powerful grown people don't run ahead of the parade. At some point, the dude said, I'm in this tension. And one day I feel arrogant, the other day I feel insecure. There's got to be a better way. And essentially by running ahead and climbing a tree, he decided to take off the bulletproof vest. I'm going to make myself vulnerable. It's embarrassing to be short to climb a tree. I mean, you see this guy climbing this tree like, he knew I'm putting myself back on the chopping block. But you know what? I don't care. I'm ready. I'm ready for something different. I've spent my whole life trying to conceal this. I've spent my whole life living this way. I've spent my whole life in this dichotomy. I want to do something different, and I think this is a pivotal moment. This is what catches Jesus' eye. his readiness. You ever see these stories? Jesus is in a crowd of people and he pulls somebody out of the crowd, or he selects somebody. You ever just think about the fact that if you were one of the other people in the crowd, you're like, I mean, some of it, honestly, will kind of mess with your theology a little bit. You're just like, that didn't feel like a very Jesus-like thing to do. You know, it didn't. He goes to the pool of Bethesda and he's climbing over lame people. Yeah. Excuse me there. And then he heals one lame guy and leaves the rest of them lame. I'm over here like, I got a hip problem too, man. You can help me out. Why did you climb over me? Zacchaeus, in a crowd so big, he can't even see over the head. Jesus, in the last week of his life, going through Jericho, only to go to Jerusalem, stops, goes off script in a detour, and goes and spends the night at a dude's house. Biggest reason, I'll tell you right now, he was ready. Amen. Readiness. Amen. Readiness. Have you ever tried to talk to somebody about something they weren't ready to hear? Yeah. Have you ever listened to somebody talk who was so wrong? They are so wrong. You're like, man, if we say here, I could dismantle you in court. I could just, I mean, it is so bad. You are so wrong. It's ridiculous. But they're not ready. So you're like, why waste my breath? Friend, Jesus didn't even try to argue people out of it who weren't ready. Jesus, deity, fully God, was like, they ain't ready. I'm not going to waste my breath. He had a whole group of people that weren't ready. The Pharisees and the teachers of religious law were wrong, but they weren't ready to be wrong. They weren't ready to be vulnerable. What does he see? He's walking down the road and he sees this flash, this really short flash. And he sees this chief tax collector in his expensive garb, snagging his Gucci tunic, going up the tree, climbing up out on a limb. And he's like, he's ready. He's ready. He took the bulletproof vest off. He's done trying to be right. He's done trying to be big. He's done trying to flex. He's ready to see. He's ready. Readiness is huge. Might be the biggest factor. Didn't matter comparing how egregious Zacchaeus' sins were compared to the Pharisees. If you put them on a scale based on how we look at bad things, this dude exploited his own countrymen. He robbed the poor. He took from people who were already being oppressed to give it to the bully and take some of his own pocket. That's horrible. But Jesus seemed to not be too worried about the magnitude of his sin. He was looking at the magnitude of his readiness. He's ready to make a change. He's ready. I just want to ask you the question, are you ready to be wrong? Are you ready to consider the fact you might be wrong? Are you willing to wade into the tension of something that you may have argued for, you were an evangelist for, you were a proponent of in a different season, that maybe some things are changing, and maybe you need to walk into the tension to sit there and maybe be wrong? Or you still got your bulletproof vest and you're trying to prove success, his readiness. So I want to show you the conflict, how Jesus has this. This is incredible. This is masterful. Luke 19:5. Jesus came by, it says, and he looked up at Zacchaeus and he called him. Don't miss this. Don't miss. This is so easy. This is why you got to read your Bible slow. I get a little freaked out every time I talk to somebody. Like, I'm on a plan. I'm going to try to read through the Bible in a month. I'm like, oh. I'm trying to read through Luke 19:5 in a year. Jesus calls him by name. Don't miss that. Zacchaeus. They'd never met. Yeah, Jesus is walking down the road. Zacchaeus is up in a tree, ready. Jesus said, Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, first of all, had a revelation. Oh, this is deity. This is different. And by calling him by name, he's going, Zacchaeus, I know your backstory. I know how you get that ruthless, dude. I know how you get that cold-blooded. I know how you get the bulletproof vest. Hey, Zacchaeus, by the way, you're despised. I know what it's like to be despised. Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, in one name, in one word, Zacchaeus. Everybody here sees you two-dimensional. They think you're Cruella de Vil. They see a chief tax collector. They see a traitor. Zacchaeus, I get the whole story. I know how you get there. I know you're sick of the short jokes. I know you're sick of the short jokes. Now look what he says next. Come down. Zacchaeus, come down. Come down. Come down to your real stature. Get out of the tree. Quit trying to add inches to your height. Come here. Come down. Let me see how tall you really are. And let me love you at your real stature. Let me love you on the rung you're at. Zacchaeus, let me love you on the rung you are unconditionally. Come down. Come down. Come down. Let me give you grace. Let me love you like that. He says, come down. And then look at this. What's next? He says, I must be a guest in your home today. I must be a guest in your home today. It's a peculiar sentence because in one sense, Jesus is deferential because people have been flexing on Zacchaeus all of his life. And Jesus says, it's your home. Can I be a guest? But then he's proactive enough to invite himself over to another dude's house. I want to come over to your house. I want to be a guest in your house. I want to sit on the sofa you purchased. We'll eat your food. I'll come to your house. But invites himself over. When you look at the book of Luke, if you can step back and zoom back, you start to see this beautiful picture emerge. Because if you go back to Luke 5, so we're in Luke 19. If you go back to Luke 5, is the first time that they start coming at Jesus for hanging out with tax collectors. The Pharisees go to Jesus' disciples. They say, why does your teacher eat with such scum? And Jesus says, it's not those who are well who are in need of a physician. To which the Pharisees probably got a little self-righteous, like, oh, that makes sense because we're not sick and they are. To which Jesus in the next verse says, I didn't come to call those who think they're righteous, but to those who know they're sinners. Those who are ready. Those who are ready. You're not ready until you're willing to be wrong. You're not ready until you're willing to take off the bulletproof vest and climb the sycamore tree and let them meme you one more time. To bring your vulnerability. And then in Luke 22, 3 chapters later, he's talking to his disciples who all want to be great. They all want to be great. They all want to level up. They want to go to the next level. That's our other core desire. They want to level up. And Jesus says, hey, in your world, he said, great men lorded over the people. He said kings and these, politicians and leaders. He said they lorded over people. And they might lord it like a tax collector who says, you might despise me, but you'll respect me. Or they can do it by trying to woo people and I'll give you what you want, so you give me what I want. He said, in your world, great men lorded over the people. And they're called friends of the people. He said, but among us, it's different. He said, I'm among you as one who serves. The one who is the greatest will take the lowest rank. The greatest leader will be the greatest servant. Okay, now, let's bring this all together now. Look what happens when Jesus gives Zacchaeus this wave of grace. Zacchaeus, I get your backstory. Come down. Let me love you at your stature. I want to come to your house and build a relationship. Look what it says in the very next verse. Look what it says in verse 8. Zacchaeus stood before the Lord. And here's what he says. I will give half my wealth to the poor. Jesus didn't start dealing out punitive punishments and go, and you need to do this, and then you need to do that, and then you need to do that. When Zacchaeus was hit with a wave of grace, his first instinct post-grace was to go, I know what it's like to have short jokes. I know what it's like to be short. I know what it's like to not measure up. I know what it's like to be weak. I know what it's like to have a problem I can't solve by myself. I know what it's like to not have enough. I feel a kinship. I feel a camaraderie with those who are in a version of the same position I'm in. So he says, I'm going to help the poor. Why? Because the poor has a certain kind of issue with stature. Whether or not he's been poor, he's felt the same things that you feel over here. I know what it's like to be ashamed. I know what it's like for people to make jokes about your clothes. I know what it's like to have jokes about how you came in, how you smell, because you can't avoid. I get it. They made short jokes for me. They made poor jokes for you. And now, instead of trying to level up, power up, put on my bulletproof vest and show how powerful I am, no. I'm going to be the kind of leader Jesus eventually articulates in Luke 22 to say, I'm among you as one who serves. Dude, Jesus didn't even have to give him that action step. It was a natural outflow of the grace that he received of being loved on this level. Because this is what I'm going to tell you. Until you receive the unconditional love of Jesus, you may not even be defining success accurately. Zacchaeus wasn't even ready to define success until he could be loved on this rung. And once he was loved on this rung, come down out of the tree and loved right there, he just knew what to do. He knew what to do. He knew what success was. So here's Jesus. Here's Jesus on his way to the cross, having some common ground with this tax collector, this chief tax collector. And he's going, oh, you're despised by the people? Me too. But what I'm going to do is lay down my life. What I'm going to do is, in spite of being spit upon and have a crown of thorns on my head and having the people despise me, I'm going to serve them. I'm going to make a better way. I'm among you as one who serves. And so he invites Zacchaeus into that. Why else would you take a detour on your way to Jerusalem in the last week of your life? But you see somebody who's ready. Say this last thing. The talent and the savvy to maneuver the Roman hierarchy to become a chief tax collector is a gift. That's talent. Jesus wanted and made and designed for Zacchaeus his destiny to be a chief. But you're supposed to be a different kind of chief. A different kind of chief. All the other chiefs are taken from the people. You're going to give to the people. I want you to be a different kind of chief. I want you to affect the culture. I want you to shift and change. And the impediment to that revelation was an issue of stature that Zacchaeus had been fighting to conceal. Maybe today, the thing you've been fighting to conceal is the very thing that God wants to use. The thing you've been trying to prove your way out of. The thing you've been trying to create a diversion. Maybe it's that thing that would cause you to have common ground with people. Maybe it's the very thing, the stature issue. It's the very thing that if you'll take off the bulletproof vest and you'll run ahead and you'll climb the tree, be willing to be vulnerable again, to allow God to love you unconditionally where you are, to put that foundation, will be the very thing that God will use to say, no, I want you to be a chief. I just want you to be a different kind of chief. I want you to lead different. I want you to do different. Are you ready? Readiness is everything. Amen. Wade into the tension. The tension is good. You might be masquerading or you might be maturing. But if you'll allow the unconditional love of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that God made he who had no sin to become sin for you and me, that we might become the righteousness of God. That God so loved the world that he sent his son Jesus to die, so whoever believes in him would not perish. If you'll allow God to love you in that state, then success will start to become very clear. Very clear. But you got to walk into the tension. I want to give you a moment right now to process what God is saying to you. So I'm gonna invite you to stand up on your feet, and I invite our prayer team to come forward. Sometimes in these moments, it's appropriate to stand still and to allow God to maybe begin a conversation in your mind, or maybe today you have something that you'd like to have a member of our team to actually stand with you and to pray with you. So as we take this moment, if you'd like to come forward, come forward. If not, stay where you are and allow the Lord to do the work he wants to do.